I endure it.
Anybody got a phone with water lines where my throat's drying out?
And then I can go back.
Okay, we're going to,
You rolling?
this, well, the video is rolling. We're going to use this for,
Okay.
two-shot demo. So we're kind of cobbling things together
I
here.
got
But
you.
this is our audio.
But it'll pick it up.
It'll pick it up.
Good.
Okay. All right. Caleb, you ready?
I am.
Okay. Let's just take it from the top. Mr. Cain, I've spent the entire weekend with you.
Yes,
I want to tell you that you are an absolute gentleman
sir.
and you have unbridled energy. I'm very envious of the way that you conduct yourself dawn to dusk. You really go.
Part of it is running off adrenaline, and part of it is just the passion within that causes you to step it up when you have to. What you don't see are those times when I crash, which would be later tonight.
Okay. Now I've got a cell phone right here. How
Yeah.
long would it take you, if I gave you this phone, how long would it take you to get a Godfather's Pizza delivered right here, right now?
About a week.
That's pretty much what I thought. We're in Corvallis.
We used to have a lot of restaurants in Oregon. To be honest with you, I don't know where they are now. Remember, I left Godfather's in 2000,
I know.
14 years ago, so I have no idea.
Okay, you've got a large pizza here. What are your
Yes.
3 toppings? What have you got on your pizza? 3 toppings you got.
Pepperoni, sausage, beef, and extra cheese.
Boy, you have been in this business a while. That's
I'm a meat type of pizza guy.
Good. Our show is Smarter Money TV. We are a business show. My interest is
Right.
business, as is yours. I want to begin to talk a little bit about where you think we are after 6 years. Are we in recovery? There's still obviously a lot of work to do. Last week, we are 3 weeks from the
Right.
midterm elections.
Yes.
But the numbers came out, 5.9% unemployment. Does that encourage you at all?
No.
Because of the...
And here's why. In 2012, the administration fudged the numbers. I believe that they have fudged the numbers again. Do you think it's a coincidence that just before election, all of a sudden the unemployment rate goes down some more? I don't believe it. I have had my research people looking into it, and it's awfully suspicious. Secondly, we're not the only ones that suspect that these numbers have been doctored. And I believe that those numbers are doctored. Let's suppose that they didn't doctor the numbers. If you add in the unemployed, those that have given up, and you add in many of the other people who are now working part-time, the actual rate is over 10%. That's not a recovery. It's just a narrative of the administration, so I don't believe those numbers. They can claim it's 4.5%. I don't care. I don't believe it. I think the numbers are being doctored. And here's the other reason that I believe the numbers are being doctored. If you talk to business people, they are not expanding their businesses. They are still on survive mode. And so you don't have this runaway growth that you would normally get if people really thought that this economy was recovering. I think that to say that this economy is recovering is a bogus claim on the part of this administration.
The financial crash of 2008 was really a lack of liquidity.
Yes.
Our economy was more or less a giant game of musical chairs, and when the music stopped, if you didn't have a chair,
Right.
you were out of luck. How is access to capital? You're a businessman. That's critically important to expand business. Where do you think we are in terms of small businesses, which are 95% of American businesses are small businesses?
Right.
Are the banks lending, or is capital available for business expansion investment?
No, and that's another reason I don't believe that we're in a recovery. I talk to business people, small business people all the time that say that they can't get the banks to loan them money for 2 reasons. Number one, the administration through the FDIC and through the bank's regulatory arm are basically trying to intimidate banks to not lend money to certain businesses and to certain small businesses. Small business people who have had a track record of paying their bills with the bank have been all of a sudden terminated because the bank has been told that if you loan money to this particular type of business, then we may have to investigate you more than normal. It's called choke point. And a lot of people don't want to believe that it's happening, but I've heard it directly from some business people. So, bottom line, business people aren't able to get access to capital. That's another reason that I believe we are not in a recovery. They keep saying it, but we're not in a recovery.
Now, you've got connections to banking. You were, of course, chairman of the Kansas City Federal Reserve Bank. Do you think that the proper checks and balances have been made to prevent a financial catastrophe, which Timothy Geithner in his book described that Hank Paulson, former Treasury Secretary, had said, we were 3 days away from our ATM cards not working. Do you think that the proper legislation has been and regulation has been put in place? Do you like Dodd-Frank, for example?
I hate Dodd-Frank.
I had a feeling.
And no, the proper safeguards have not been put in place, and here's why. Some people are on this kick about ending the Fed. That's like saying we're going to end the air traffic control system. Who's going to control where the airplanes fly to make sure they don't run into one another? We should fix the Fed. In order to fix the Fed, Congress needs to pass a very simple resolution. And that is, instead of the Fed having a dual mission of controlling inflation and unemployment, they need to have a mission of just controlling inflation. Forget about unemployment. You can't control unemployment with all the dynamics that impact unemployment because of the amount of money you put into the market or with the interest rate. It's ludicrous. Now, that being said, when I was on the board of the Federal Reserve in the 1990s, we didn't have to worry about that because the unemployment rate was always around 4.5 and never got over 5%. So we didn't have to worry about what do we do to try to impact unemployment. This Fed does. And so they not only are trying to manage unemployment and inflation, but they also are doing it with not only the change in interest rate, but dumping money and printing money and putting it into the economy. That's what's wrong. And until you give the Federal Reserve a single mission, we're going to be stuck in this situation. And the Federal Reserve has basically painted itself in a corner that I'm not sure if they know how they're going to get out of it.
Let's talk a little bit about debt. When President Bush, when President Obama took over for President Bush,
yes,
the national debt was $10 trillion.
Yes.
PBS did a famous documentary, 10 Trillion and Counting, in which they excoriated the Bush administration for increasing that debt level.
Right.
Now, 6 years later, we are at 17.5 trillion.
Right.
What effect does that have on the economy? Everybody has been talking about maybe defaulting. That's never going to happen.
Right.
Because the U.S. is the best credit in the world.
Yes.
Because you pay your debts first. Before
right.
you pay, in your home, you pay your mortgage first, right?
Yes.
Before you pay your cable bill and other things. That's what our debt is like. It's at going on $18 trillion. That takes a big chunk of that,
yes.
that money away that is not available for investment.
Exactly. The debt is a problem for several reasons, but let me give you two. Number one, with a $17 trillion national debt, we are spending approximately $400 billion a year. Interest only. Interest. So that $400 billion comes out of other places we could be spending the money, such as defense. $400 billion, which is an absolute waste of taxpayers' dollars. The second reason that debt is a big negative for this economy is that much of it is owned by foreign countries that do not like us. If China were to say, I'm going to call the note, we are in a predicament that we don't want to be in.
Well, we owe China about $3 trillion.
Correct.
But really, what kind of risk is that? Where would they put $3 trillion in the world? Don't you think that it's not likely that they're going to take, say we'd like our $3 trillion back, and we're going to invest in Bulgaria.
You're absolutely right, but not so fast, Kemosabe.
Thank you for that. I am your Kemosabe.
Kemosabe, not so fast. There's another risk other than them saying we want our money. It's called national security.
Yes.
They're trying to build up their military. They're trying to build up their nuclear capability. And if they think calling no can cause us to spend less money on our military, they could do it for national security reasons.
Right.
You haven't thought about that one, had
I had given it some thought, but I'd rather hear it from you. You are very critical of the downsizing of the military. You
Yes.
think that, do you believe that President Obama thought that there would be a peace dividend from withdrawing our footprint internationally? That peace never came, therefore
Right.
the dividend did not materialize.
Right.
So how critical, we were talking the other day, you mentioned that our Navy is at the size that it was in World War II.
Correct.
How dangerous is that?
It's very dangerous. President Obama and his administration were very naive about expecting a peace dividend. And as a result, they have gradually nipped away at reducing the size of our military, whether it's reducing the number of fighting ships, whether it's reducing the fighting force, canceling the strategic missile defense system over Turkey, things like that. They've been very naive about the importance of us maintaining a very strong military. I mentioned tonight that Reagan's foreign policy philosophy was peace through strength. Herman Cain's foreign policy is peace through strength and clarity. But if you allow that strength to go down, you lose one of the two leverage points that we have with the rest of the world. Disregard all of the countries that say that they are our friends. You only have friends for two reasons internationally. Because they respect the strength and power of our military, or they respect the size and strength of our economy. Those are the two reasons that some people say that they are our friends. And we don't have a clear foreign policy strategy.
We are 3 weeks out from the midterms, and I want to get your prediction on whether the Republicans will gain the Senate. But Wayne has given me the high sign, so I want to go quickly back to business.
Yes.
You were an executive of the Burger King Corporation in the
Yes.
1980s.
Yes.
Burger King has made news recently by purchasing a Canadian company, Tim Horton,
Right.
in order to do what is called inversion. Could you please capsulize that for us, and how important is it? You talked about tax reform tonight.
Right.
On the subject of inversion.
A company like Burger King they are using the existing tax law to reduce their domestic taxes. They haven't broken any rules. It's just the convoluted nature of the tax code. So if they buy a company in Canada, for example, they can move their headquarters to Canada and declare themselves a Canadian-based company and not pay U.S. taxes as a U.S.-based company. That is perfectly legal, but this administration wants to intimidate companies and say, well, you shouldn't do that for patriotic reasons.
Right.
CEOs don't run companies for patriotic reasons. They run companies to basically increase shareholder value.
Exactly.
That's why they do that.
That's exactly
now,
right.
The second thing about this is that this administration, rather than work on the right problem, as I talk a lot about, which would be to reduce our top corporate tax rate and remove some of these incentives to leave America, this administration's response was, let's make it more difficult and more complicated to force them to stay. Therein lies a fundamental difference between how this administration looks at the business community versus, hypothetically, a Cain administration. I would want to reduce those barriers that would encourage businesses to stay, and it would encourage other businesses to come back into this country.
Big finish in November, 3 weeks out. Alaska, Louisiana, Montana, South Dakota, West Virginia. Where do you see the count, your head count now? If you were Frank Underwood at House of Cards, the fictional Democratic whip.
Where's my crystal ball?
What's your feeling? Are we going to get close to the 51 or 52? How do you see that?
My feeling is yes, but we have about a 50.01% chance of making it happen. For the following reasons. I love y'all, Republicans, but you're notorious for screwing stuff up. That's number one. And number two, Democrats will try to win at all costs. They will lie, they will cheat, they will say anything necessary in order to try to win. So you're up against Republicans who may not be as bold as they should be in some of the campaigns, and Democrats who will go overboard to try and deep six an opponent that's a Republican. But I give it a 50.01% chance that we'll have a Republican majority in November.
In 2 years and 4 months from now, January 20th, 2017, who will sit in the White House?
Shall we gather at the river?
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Michael. Bruce, you weren't expecting that, were you? Thank you, dear.
I want your picture.
Okay.
We want to sell it. Or you can send it to me. We want to sell it.
I don't know if I have your phone number, but it'll be really easy to do right now.
Okay, we got to get both of you in. There we go. Yeah, that's good.